Now, there are fundamental differences between online persuasion and offline persuasion. Online persuasion is a lot more restricted because you can't do a lot of the things that you would normally do. Do you like my fluffy steering wheel cover? It's nice. Yeah, there's an awful lot that you can't actually do in online persuasion that you can in offline. So, for example, when I first started looking into all this sort of stuff, I was using anchoring, using touch. So I would elicit a state in someone, and then I would anchor that by touching them, touching their shoulder. And then that shoulder touch then becomes an anchor for that state later on when you want to influence them. You would elicit that state by touching them on the shoulder just before you say whatever it is that you're about to say, or also just after. So you get them, you say it and then you touch them on the shoulder pretty much at the same time. So they experience the same sort of positive feeling with whatever suggestion you've just made. So that's one way of using offline persuasion that you just cannot use online. Another one would be lexical mirroring, or linguistic mirroring, where you would actually mirror someone's language back to them, and you just can't do that via online persuasion, simply because you don't have that sort of feedback. And so what I've done is to invent a system that you can do all of this sort of stuff, because anchoring does not need to be physical. You don't need to touch someone to anchor someone or something. And the way that I came up with this was when I was working as a call centre, selling people insurance, selling insurance to people who really didn't want it, and it wasn't often a very good insurance package, but you know, I had to sell it, that was my job, and if I didn't convert, then I'd probably be out of a job. So I worked out ways of anchoring positive states or yes responses using my voice. So obviously over the phone you can't actually you can't use the physical anchoring because you don't have the opportunity to touch the person, which, you know, seems logical enough. So I decided that I would use like coughing and tone of voice to actually anchor a yes response in. So I would say, "Hello, is that Mr. Smith?" And as soon as they say yes, I would repeat yes back to them and then cough to anchor it. So, "Hi, is that Mr. Smith?" "Yes, yes." Excellent. And I'd also say yes, excellent as well, because excellent is a very positive response as well. So eventually, having done that all the way through and asked them fairly remedial questions to which I knew that they would have to give a yes response, I would ask the question after I gave the cough. So I'd go, "So, blah blah blah." So you get to the end and you'd say, "So, Mr. Smith, do you think that you might be going for this today?" And because you've coughed and anchored it, then the anchor is there, and you triggered the anchor before you've actually done the yes response this time, and so they're a lot more likely to sell. And my sales figures spoke for themselves. I did sell an awful lot more than most people. So, having worked out that you can do an audio anchor, I kind of wondered whether you might be able to do it via an audio anchor that isn't actually spoken. And this is kind of where it starts getting quite advanced, simply because if you start putting anchors into text, the way that people read text is similar to the way that a child reads text. They would actually read it out loud. The only difference with reading in an adult is often they don't read out loud. Now, they haven't learned a new way of reading. All they've done is interrupted their voice, so they don't actually speak the words. Every other mental function is speaking that word, but it's just the voice gets stopped. It's like that signal gets blocked halfway through. So what's quite clever about all of that is that if they are speaking out loud, they still hear that voice inside their head before it's said. And so what's happening when they're reading, they hear this voice inside their head, and to all intents and purposes they may actually be hearing that voice out loud, but just inside their head. I hope that kind of makes sense. It's kind of difficult to explain without experiencing it, but the chances are, if you can read, the chances are you already know exactly what that feels like anyway. So what's really cool about all of that sort of stuff is that you can mirror people by working out the words that they say, or or the words that they write in their emails, and then mirroring their type of language back to them. And by doing that in text, they actually hear those words, and then they can start to really have the mirroring done to them through themselves. So I hope that kind of makes sense as well. So there is a difference between online and offline mirroring in as much as the way that you implement these strategies, but they're exactly the same regardless of whether they are online or offline. You can still use anchoring, you can still use mirroring. So hopefully that was clear. Hopefully the driving and this fluffy steering wheel didn't distract you too much. Thank you very much for watching, and tune in again next week. I may do another one in the meantime, but tune in again next week in case I don't. We've also got a webinar on Wednesday of next week. That's the 23rd, I think. Yeah, 23rd. So have a look at that. That's all about email marketing strategies, and I'm going to put the link in the description as well, in case you don't know what that one is. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again. Hopefully I'll see you at the webinar. Register now because spaces are limited. Thank you.